was about 28 years old, I visited California for the very first time. And needless to say, I was full of curiosity and awe. When I arrived at SFO at midnight, I was greeted by Rita, a good friend from back east, and she introduced me to her husband. Just a few hours later, we were on board to LA. I still remember visiting LA and how excited I was to see the Hollywood sign in the Hollywood Hills. I was starstruck to meet TV and film stars that she knew because Rita worked in the film industry. When we arrived back in San Francisco, though, her husband, a San Francisco native, was excited to show me his hometown. Riding up the hilly Lombard Street, our 5-speed car sputtered and stalled for a moment, and I was a little afraid of it sliding backwards and hitting the car behind us. But once we drove up that hill, I experienced the view of the crookedest street. So beautiful, and I was so full of awe and curiosity. And I must admit, I had to become acclimated to the hilly streets, because walking up those hilly sidewalks of San Francisco in high heels was insane. San Francisco was completely different from the streets of Washington, D.C. Even the people were different. They were more cosmopolitan and more open. The city was like a little diverse group of villages, and the views were spectacular. Months later, after visiting San Francisco one more time, I knew I wanted to relocate here. And now I had to make a major decision. You see, I still lived at home where it was comfortable for me. Living with my family, I had my room, a car, and I was working for a radio station as an account executive, making lots of money. But I knew that I had to make a change in order to grow. Where and how could I move? I had visited New York many times to go shop or go clubbing with friends because it was close to Maryland and I could drive there in 3.5 hours. Should I leave my hometown, a place I knew very well, the place where my family lived, and move to New York, or 3,000 miles away to California? Talking to my immediate family, no one wanted me to leave. And I felt a lot of pressure to stay. Where would I live? I don't have a job there. How can I leave where I work and find a job there doing the same work, making the same amount of money? I had some savings, but not enough to last me over 3 months. And I hardly knew anything about San Francisco. As a matter of fact, I called it Frisco. Let alone, I only knew one person, my friend Rita, but she was married. Where would I live? I had to figure things out. And the hardest part would be telling my family that I was moving away. With so much uncertainty, I decided to take the risk, and the rest is history. Just as in the song by the late jazz singer George Benson, everything must change. In life, everything changes. Nothing or no one stays the same. Change and transitions are part of the terrain for our soul's journey. Change is different from transition. It's external, more visible, more predictable, quicker, physical, and tangible. Just as in nature, change happens all the time. Leaves change colors in the fall. Winter changes to spring. Day changes to night. Change is something that happens to people even though they don't agree with it. It is constant. The Rosicrucians believe that change happens in cycles and that the journey of life is like a sea journey. The captain of the ship charts the course he intends to follow. An ocean liner going from New York to Spain may take 7 days. So the captain will mark on the line the position he expects the boat to be at the end of each day. But not every day will be the same. The start may be foggy and cold, the next day rough and windy, and the third day warmer, but the headwinds that slow the boat, and the fourth day bright and sunny, and so on. They believe that each life begins at a certain time and place and is divided into periods like the days of an ocean journey. They believe there's a cycle to our human existence, and most cycles come in periods of 7, like the 7 days of the week. Our body replaces itself with new cells every 7 years. There are also cycles of 3, 4, and 12 periods, but those of 7 are the most important. Human life is made up of 7 periods of approximately 52 days, starting from your birthday, and each of these periods provides you with different opportunities or adversities to overcome. Transition, on the other hand, is internal, personal, slower, less visible, less predictable, psychological, intangible, and evolutionary. It's what happens in people's minds as they go through change. Change can happen very quickly, while transition usually occurs more slowly. A person in transition can't fall in love with where they are today, because where they are today may not be where they are tomorrow. Transition is very challenging. It creates fear, anxiety, stress, and requires letting go. Everyone going through change also experiences the changes of transition. Once we are here on Earth, our journey, when we're here, we encounter both change and transition. Major life changes happen about every 7 years, but there are normally 3 major transitions during our lifetime with 2 book holders. One is at the beginning, when we come to Earth from the spirit world and into a human body. We leave a place we know as home to come to the Earth realm, to have human experiences, to help our souls grow and evolve. The spirit world is different. For one, it's at a higher vibration. And according to Suzanne Ward Peathawk, her son Matthew, who died in a car accident at the young age of 14, gives her messages about heaven, which he calls nirvana. Matthew says that in nirvana, there's glorious music, incomparable beauty, a cloudless sky of blue with an intense golden haze, incredible, beautiful areas like a lake and trees with an intense golden haze. And you can manifest any weather or scenery you want. In nirvana, they have etheric bodies, perfect in form, because at the soul level, no one is sick or injured or incapacitated mentally or physically. Your arrival on Earth is your very first transition and represents your front end book holder. And once on Earth, you have about 3 other major transitions before reaching the other bookend, which is the other holder, and that is the end of life, when we depart from Earth to go back to the spirit world, where once again, we're greeted by our family members and friends in celebration. We still have to make an adjustment into the vibratory frequency of the world we came from. There are 3 stages of transition: a new beginning, a middle or neutral zone, and an ending. It is the neutral zone that warrants a fixed or growth mindset. And just as a caterpillar transforms into a butterfly during the middle stage, while in the chrysalis, it's very messy. There's fear of the unknown, uncertainty, and of course, indecision. You have to be patient and allow your guides to work with you. Things will somehow open up avenues to lead you on your next major growth stage. And it takes from 2 to 5 years during this period before ending the old. So you must be patient and not move too fast or move too slow. Here are 6 ways to make your time in the middle stage or neutral zone easier. 1, find a regular time and place to be alone. Sit quietly in the morning and meditate, or sit quietly with a cup of coffee, or spend time watching the waves by the ocean. 2, begin to journal your neutral zone experience. Capture a day or week of your experiences. What was really going on? What were you thinking about at the time? What dreams did you have? What unusual things happened? What decisions did you wish you would have made? 3, take this pause in action to write an autobiography. Look back at how many times you let go in the past. 4, take this opportunity to discover what you really want. What is your purpose? 5, imagine how your life would be if everything you wanted in your life happened. What you've done in your life to this point becomes your legacy. And what was unlived, dreams, talents, ideas never explored, what qualities in you went unrealized? And the next phase is time to do something different. And 6, take a few days to go on your own venture of a journey. Go to an unfamiliar place to self-reflect. Take a notebook and jot down your reflections. Today, as we celebrate Easter, we are reminded of one of Jesus's transitions. Little is known about his life between the ages of 12 and 26 to his baptism, but some speculate that he journeyed into the Orient, where he spent time in a Buddhist monastery high in the Himalayas as both student and teacher, while others say that he traveled to Celtic England and studied with the Druids. What we do know is that in order for him to travel and minister to others in the way that he did, he would have had to make some very hard decisions. During part of these years, he was in the neutral zone of his transition, moving from the ending of a life as a son of a carpenter to a new life as the Messiah. But first, he experienced the messy middle. That's the neutral zone. He had to leave his brothers and sisters, his mother, and those that were close to him to travel near and far to study, heal others, and to preach. After being baptized by John the Baptist at the River Jordan, Jesus led by the Spirit into the desert to be tempted by the devil. He fasted for 40 days and 40 nights and lived among wild beasts, and angels ministered to him. And after leaving the desert around the age of 30, he went to Galilee to start his ministry of teaching, proclaiming the good news and healing and fulfillment of his prophecy. You see, Jesus went on a retreat because he needed time to understand the revelation of his true identity. He had to be reflective and refocus on who he really was, where he was going, and how he was going to get there. As I look back on my life, my first major transition was when I moved to San Francisco at the age of 29. Interestingly, this corresponds with my first Saturn return, which typically happens around the ages between 27 and 31. This is when Saturn returns to the same place in the sky it occupied when you were born. It happens again when you're around 59 and again around 89. But the first one, that's the most intense. Saturn wants you to learn valuable lessons so that you can move forward with your life. When you are between the ages of 27 and 31, you are trying to manage your life at a time when you were having a good old time partying and not taking things too seriously. Your life feels like a whirlwind, from relationships to your career, your family situation, and where you live. Saturn, Saturn shakes us up and straightens us out. My second major transition was my divorce after 10 years of marriage from a man I considered my best friend and soulmate for over 20 years. It was one of the most difficult decisions of my life. To leave would be devastating, and facing relatives and friends would be most challenging. But I knew I was growing in another direction. I felt as though there was a hole in my life, and with little to no money and nowhere to go, how could I make it? I still remember lying on my bed, tossing and turning throughout the days and nights, lighting candles at a Catholic church, meditating and walking by the ocean, reflecting on my next move. I was full of anxiety and uncertainty about what to do and how to do it. Now, at my retirement age, I find myself again going through another major transition. And there are many signs, such as my best friend, my muse and soul sister passing away less than 6 months ago. The building where I reside has been sold, and during the pandemic, I lost my office space where I performed my practice. And now I must pivot my business. I know I have to move physically and grow mentally. It's like I'm an Apple computer that's too old for any more software updates. I need to be upgraded into a new model, ready to download new programming and apps that apply to where I am today. I've become much wiser, though, than I was at 29 to handle this transition. For one, I've learned that in times of uncertainty, I must know my life purpose and stay in my lane. I must be quiet and turn within my inner space to connect with my higher self and receive messages being delivered to me. I must also have faith in God, infinite intelligence, and surrender to this greater power source. I must receive the messages from my guides and know when to move slowly and quickly. I must share my story with others. And once again, just like the infant that just arrives on earth, look forward to new opportunities with curiosity, wonder, and awe. On your life journey, where are you in transition? Are you at the new beginning, the middle or neutral zone, or the ending? When you know the answers to these questions, you will make your transition smoother.